Hey guys, Danny from Your Guitar Academy, and welcome to this video where I'm going to take you through three of my personal favourite and what I believe to be three essential Hendrix licks. I'm going to take you through one by one in great detail so you understand what you're actually playing as well as learning the tab. Okay, so it's worth bearing in mind that with these three licks I've deliberately chosen three very different style Hendrix licks so we get a feel for how he plays at different stages within his career. Each one of these licks, you'll find the tab available via our website, via our YJ Club. So you'll see the links in the description below if you want to go and check those out. Now, without further ado, let's have a look to the first lick. All right then guys, so let's go through this lick. First thing I'll do is I'll just play it nice and slowly, the whole thing. So it sounds like this, just nice and clean tone to start with. And then so it makes sense to dive into the first bit first, as you'd expect. And the first bit is all about octaves. Okay, so all we're really doing on that first part is going from the 11th fret to the 13th fret, and I like to visualize the pentatonic shape. So we're based in the key of C minor, and I'm using pentatonic box 1, and I'm right at the top of box 1. And as I work up this, I've got box 1 to box 2 to box 3 to box 4. Okay, so I'm just working through those pentatonic boxes. Now the only difference here then on top of that is that I'm using octave shape. So rather than just a single note going upwards, I'm doing, okay? And this is called an octave. This note here is exactly the same as this note down here. Okay, so it's an octave, and this is a really cool shape you can always use on these two strings. Okay, you can even use it on other strings as well, but that's a lesson for another time. But these two strings, certainly, the G and the E string, you always have that same shape, just working up and down the neck, okay? So, the Hendrix way of doing this is to be able to strum through that. So you've got to do a little bit of work just muting the other strings. So I'm muting the B string just with my first finger, just leaning over the top of it. And then for the D string, again, that's my first finger just leaning into the D string. So you get that sound. And then my second or third finger's just kind of hovering over the lower strings. I try not to strum them with my right hand, but I have this here as kind of like a safety precaution, just to make sure that if I do hit those low strings, I am getting a blocked off sound. Once you've kind of got that shape, and it's kind of sounding like that, might be a little bit messier at first, then you just want to simply work your way through those notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm just doing down up strumming. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Okay. Now the other thing, the final thing to really think about when you're doing the octaves here is I would try to just look at one finger. So rather than looking at both fingers as I'm moving up, either look at your first finger or your little finger, whichever one helps you visualize the pentatonic shapes more, and just allow the other finger to come with it, rather than really focusing on, oh my God, I'm looking at two fingers moving up, and it gets a bit confusing. So I'm just looking at the little finger in this case, so little fingers on the 11, 13, 15, 18, like that. Now we get to the next part of the lick. So the next part of the lick is this. Okay, so it's a little bit of a back and forth, and what I'm going to do is do it nice and slowly for you. It's all based in that pentatonic box 1, and Jimi Hendrix is the best at getting so much out of this box, okay? He doesn't need to go anywhere else because he can get everything out of this one place, and that's something we can all learn from, myself included. So we're just in that box, and I like to break it down into two little sections. The first is this. Okay, so if you ignore this little pickup note, so I'd call this a pickup note before the start of the bar, this kind of little kind of quarter bend, bluesy curl, then you get the, okay, and I'll do it one more time, just really work with that tab, make sure you can sing any kind of melodic thing like this. You need to be able to sing it as well. Da, 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 da. It doesn't have to be in key or anything like that, but you need to have those rhythms melodically. So pull off there, and then you do that classic, almost like Chuck Berry. kind of thing, okay? So that's the first half of the lick. And then we're gonna go like this. Okay, so again, still pentatonic, we're just gonna do a pull off. And then I'm gonna go. So just really manipulating this bend, a little bend up, stop it dead, hit this next note, come back down to that third, and then and finish with a nice wide bend. Okay, it's always good to chunk licks in like 2 or 3 bits. You might put it in 3 different bits, but I like to do it in those 2. When you put those 2 things together, you get. Okay, so again, you've got to take your time with that. You've got 2 different parts of the lick there. You kind of got this. And then into the second part, which we just did. The only other thing I'd like to just quickly talk about is in terms of getting that sound, the wah-wah pedal is always active. So with the wah-wah pedal, I'm just gonna get a little bit more gain on there. With the wah-wah pedal, what I like to do to keep it nice and simple is just kind of do it in time with the beat. Okay, so if you listen to this lick here. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing with the wah-wah pedal is literally like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's the equivalent of just tapping my foot to the lick. So it's really important that you do that. If you want to make it sound even more like psychedelic and even more hardcore Hendrix, you can do a much more like quick movement like that. If you listen to the difference. You get a different sound again. I find that very hard to do. I think a drummer would probably enjoy that a lot more because it's a lot of movement in the ankle. But for me, I would, just if you're just starting out with the wah-wah pedal, just do that kind of down and up like that. Put that together with a nice bit of vibe, nice bit of gain, and you're going to have an awesome Hendrix tone. Alright, so there we have it. This is our second lick, and it is of course from the classic track, The Wind Cries Mary, and it's the very specific bit right at the end of the solo section, okay? And what I love about this particular lick, the reason I showed you this one, is because it's all just over an F major chord, a very high up one. It's just kind of really highlighting the importance of caged, essentially, because the whole lick, so if I do it nice and slowly, really it's just based around this E shape and this G shape. And you can even hear it there. You go from a high, and you can kind of resolve it almost down here. So this is so important in your Hendrix book of licks, because you've got underneath this G shape, we've got our pentatonic box 1. And underneath the E shape, we've got our pentatonic box 2. Okay, and that's where a huge amount of those licks, those twiddly licks underneath your chords, that's where they're based. Okay, so this is a massively important one. And if you're not sure about any of this cage stuff, remember we do go through it in the full Jimi Hendrix course on the website, as well as the cage chord course, where I actually layer up these cage chords with the relevant scales and arpeggios we need to learn. So we've got all the stuff, it's all there. So now, this lick, so I'm gonna do the first bit first. Okay, so what we're doing here is, remember, we're using this F major. So we're just going to reference the first F. He doesn't necessarily do that in the lick, but I'm going to do it for reference here. So just the low F. And then I'm using that pentatonic box 2 to create these sounds. Okay, so literally just holding down those 2 notes and hammering on the B string. Okay, like so. Then moving to this shape. So again, it's kind of this part of the pentatonic box, and then hammering on. So we're literally just going to hammer on from the 12th to the 14th on the G string, back down to the root note of the F, and then down to resolve where the first and the second finger are just kind of sitting. Okay, so you get this. Okay. Now, importantly, whenever you're doing these licks, rhythm is king. So it won't work if you're just doing, you know, if you're not really focused in and dialed into the groove of this. So I would always recommend being able to sing the lick, boom, da, dum, ba, da, 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 even if the actual melody is slightly off in terms of the the actual notes, the rhythm of the melody is there, right? So dum, da, da. Da, 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 like that. Okay, I've got the rhythm there as well. So I'm constantly tapping my foot even whilst I'm playing through this kind of style of stuff. Okay, then we're going to bring it down to this kind of G shape here and do this lick. Love this, love this, love this, love this. So what we're doing here is simply hammering on from the 10 to the 12. Okay, so within that pentatonic box. And then I'm just doing this kind of almost like bluesy thing, right? Okay, so just literally flattening that finger and going back and forth between those two notes. And then I'm just going to hold down this to start. I'm just going to start forming a chord here. Okay, so just hold down the double 10 there on the D and the G string, and then just roll down from the 13 to the 12, which is just working from a major scale, but very much landing on the major third of the F. You can see that the F is there now, pieced together within this lick. Okay, and again, rhythmically, it's absolutely important that we have that melody in our head. Okay, so I'm going to kind of just go through that nice and slowly with the melody. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, and there we have it. There's our second lick out of the 3. Okay, but you can't guess the next one. We'll see. But this one, again, really try and get that. Next time you play one of these chord shapes, see if you can get that little lick or parts of that lick within your own improvisation. Okay, so there's our third and final lick, and it's straight out of the track The Power of Soul by Jimi Hendrix and the Band of Gypsies, of course. And this one, I really wanted to get this in there because it really highlights that kind of aggressive riffing Hendrix kind of style, and this consistency, this ability to just kind of just basically just play very rhythmically, but make something really fancy happen with the left hand. It's also really fast paced, so it'll really help you with your strumming technique as well. Now, let me just kind of first of all take you through this track, and then we'll talk a bit more about how you might want to use this technique going forward. But really, it's kind of based in this kind of blues key, I would say. So it's kind of based in B flat blues, and we're very much using the B flat pentatonic box, okay? And with that, we're actually grouping always at least 2 notes together. This is how we get that kind of very rich, and when it's got gain on like this, almost dissonant sound at times. I mean, we're very much using force here, so it's not too bad. It's quite a nice note distance between the notes, but that's how you can get some of those more dissonant sounds. So we're working always with 2 notes. So we're basically looking to flatten our fingers, and it goes like this. So if I was to do that with 1 string, that's all we're doing. And you're thinking, how can that sound cool? But it does because of the double notes. And then, of course, the rhythm aspect of that. So I'm not just doing that very specific picking like that. I'm, of course, going like this. So it's like you're getting a rhythm. You know, the same way you would just get a... It's like an aggressive rhythm, but of course the Hendrixism here is that we're playing, you know, loads of dyads, loads of two notes in like a melody rather than just a straight up chord, okay? So, you know, when you kind of put that together and we slow it down, that's the first half, so we'll stop there. We'll repeat the same thing in the second half. Except we're just going to stop to hit the Hendrix chord. Now, whether it plays the full Hendrix chord or maybe just the dominant seventh, it's well worth just striving for that Hendrix chord. And this is, of course, your F7 sharp 9 chord, which is the Hendrix chord. Okay, so you've got the root, the major third, the flat 7, and the sharp 9 on top. Okay. So altogether, that lick, when you try and put it together, and remember with the right hand, you've just got to go for it, okay? To get that aggressive tone, I'm doing all downstrokes. Dum, 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 dum. Like you would if you're just, you know, thrashing out something like that. But of course, I have to do a lot more movement with this hand. So when you first get into this technique, it's like playing Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan or something by John Frusciante, whereby you're hitting a lot of strings, but you're doing a lot of work muting the other strings. So even when I'm going like this, I'm still, you can hear I'm muting the higher strings. So you'll very much have to accept that it'll sound very messy initially. You just work through it, refine it, just keep adjusting those fingers until it starts to neaten up a little bit. You still want to keep it a little bit messy, right? Because it's Hendrix. So it will sound like this all together. Okay, and more up to speed of the track. All right, guys, so there we have it. There are my 3 top Hendrix licks that I think you guys should know. Hopefully it's inspired you to pick up the guitar and start getting a bit Hendrixy with it. And remember, if you are interested in just how Hendrix ticks and how to actually put this stuff together for yourself and really understand it, then we do have a full Jimi Hendrix player study over at the website. All the links will of course be below. So have some fun with that and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to get access to the interactive tab for this lick, join our YJ Club. Plus, if your guitar learning is moving slower than you like or you're struggling for focus, our YJ Club is exactly what you need. With custom learning pathways, an awesome website, progress tracking, and access to our community of students and mentors, you have everything you need to achieve your guitar goals. We'll see you there.